Hi guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, we're going to be learning finger-picking etude number 26. So that's quite a mouthful. But in a nutshell, this etude is all about Travis picking. So we're going to talk about that technique in just a second. But I thought I'd share with you how this song came about. So this song was inspired by the movie Into the Wild. So if you haven't seen the movie, I'd highly encourage you to watch it. It's one of those movies that leaves a very long-lasting impression on you. Now, I'll give you kind of a short little synopsis of what it is. The movie tells the story of a young man who leaves society to go into the wild, and he goes on quite an incredible adventure along the way. And if you have seen the movie, then you know that the soundtrack was done by Eddie Vedder, the singer from Pearl Jam. And he's got a few songs on that soundtrack that use Travis picking. But not only that, they really evoke the feeling of going into nature and having that wild adventure. So that's kind of what I was trying to accomplish. I wanted to have this song kind of sound like it could maybe fit onto that soundtrack and use that technique that Eddie uses on quite a few of the songs. So let's talk about that technique. So Travis picking, it's named after Merle Travis. He's a country artist, and in a nutshell, what Travis picking is it's a repetitive right hand picking pattern where the underlining chords continually change. So you're doing this right hand picking pattern that remains constant, but the chord work changes. So I'll give you an example that's really easy to see. So if I take a G chord, just the stock one you learn on day one, and I go down to the second fret, make it a G major 7, and all opens, G6, and walk my way back up, I'm going to use a repetitive right hand picking pattern that sounds like this, and I'm going to apply it to that chord progression. So take a listen. Sounds pretty cool, right? So I love Travis picking because it just really, it gives the harmony this color and this sound that just sounds so cool. And there's many famous examples of songs that use Travis picking. Dust in the Wind is probably the most iconic that I can think of off the bat. Landslide by Fleetwood Mac is another good example. But it's just a really, really cool sounding technique. And what's great about it is that it cuts down the work of the right hand, because if you think about it, you only have to learn the picking pattern once, and then you apply it to every single chord that you go to. So with this tune, it puts the focus on what the left hand is doing more so. And there's a lot of really interesting chords in this little composition, and some stretch chords and some really cool sounding stuff. So I think it'll be a good challenge for your left hand dexterity. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this lesson. So I'm going to split this song up into two parts. So in this video, which is the part 1 lesson, we'll learn the first half of the song. If you want to learn the second half, you can do so by clicking this link or going to the site rockclass101.com and doing a search for finger-picking etude number 26. Now also on that page will be the tabs that you can print off and follow along with, as well as access the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer. So this is a really cool feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. Alright, so let's kick into learning this tune. There's a couple things that we want to talk about off the bat. First one is, as you saw from the title above, it is for baritone ukulele. So grab the baritone for this lesson. Now the second thing I want to talk about is our right hand approach for finger picking, and I think we're going to talk about it as we break down what that repetitive finger picking pattern is, or the Travis picking technique. So I'm going to give you guys 2 ways to do the right hand Travis picking, and it's up to you on which one you want to do. Either one will work. There's no right or wrong, okay? So the pattern in a nutshell, let's just take the stock G chord. Let's just keep it really simple with an easy chord for the get-go. If you want to do this Travis picking technique with a 4-finger approach, that means that your thumb gets string 4, index gets string 3, middle gets string 2, ring finger gets string 1. Now, let's try this approach with the pattern. So here's the rhythm hits. You can tell off the bat that we have a quarter note followed by eighth notes. So the big thing you want to get down is just that repetitive rhythm pattern. So it's 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and so on and so forth, right? So to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to pluck 4 and 1 together. Okay? Then with the index finger, you're going to play string 3, then string 2, then string 4 with the thumb, then string 1, then string 3, then string 2. But keep in mind that rhythm, you have quarter followed by eighth notes. So we have together 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2. Okay? So let's you and I try that. So 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Repeat 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and... Okay? Now that's using a 4-finger approach. You could also do this song using a 3-finger approach. If you do that, then your thumb gets string 4 and string 3, index finger gets string 2, middle finger gets string 1. So it sounds the same, and everything else is identical. You're just using a different fingers to pluck it, right? So for this one, you would use thumb and middle for the first hit. Remember, quarter note. Then use thumb for string 3, index for string 2, thumb for string 4, middle for string 1, thumb for string 3, and then index for string 2. So together, thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb, index. It's a lot to call out. Together, thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb, index. There we go. So let's try that one together. So the 3-finger approach. 3 and 4 and. Repeat. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay? So you can try either or for this tune, and maybe one feels more comfortable, so you can roll with that, or if you want to mix between the two and do a hybrid, that's cool. Remember, there's no right or wrong, and I'll leave it up to you on which one you want to do. But let's go ahead and jump now into learning this piece of music. So the first chord that we're starting on is a higher voicing for a D. So to form this chord, we're going to take our middle finger, put it on 7 on string 3, ring fingers underneath it, 7 on string 2, and index is 5 on string 1, and we've got the open D string above it. So remember, we have that picking pattern that we already know. So together, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2. And we know the rhythm. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. So we're just going to be playing out of this chord. So let's give it a shot. 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Nice. So let's try it one more time without me counting. 3, and 4, and. Okay, now going into our next chord, all we have to do is we have to get rid of our index finger and we drop our pinky underneath the ring finger. So you see you have open, sev, 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 right? All on 7. This gives us a D6. So let's try the exact same pattern on this new chord. So let's try that together. 3, and 4, and. Nice. So if we backtrack, we have a pretty easy change from first into second chord. So let's give that a shot. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Nice. Now as we go into our third measure, we're going to a D major 7. So to do this chord, what we're going to do is we're going to take our index finger and do a partial bar. So it's going to be the 7th fret from the 3rd string down. Now I like to use my pinky finger to play the 9th fret of the 1st string, but you can use your ring finger. So either or works, and I'll leave it up to you on which one feels more comfortable. But I'm going to use my pinky finger to play that 9th fret. Now here's the big takeaway. Anytime we're doing a partial bar chord, so partial bar means we're covering at least 2 or 3 strings. Full bar chord means we're covering all 4 strings. But anytime we're doing a bar chord, it's really, really important that proper form is intact. And proper form is not only what's happening in front of the neck, but also behind the neck. So you can see this U-shaped gap, and my thumb is placed slightly above the middle of the neck. All that is vital for making these bar chords ring. So crystal clear. We want to hear every single note. So if you need a recap on proper left-hand form, check out this lesson. I'll also link it in the description box below. Now that lesson is geared towards the soprano, concert, and tenor ukuleles, but everything it talks about is relatable to baritone as well. Now let's kick back into this third measure. So we've got the D major 7 chord, and we've got the exact same pattern. So that's the beauty of Travis picking. So we've got together, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2. So let's try that same speed about. So 1, 2, and 3, and go now. Nice. Now here's the thing. When we go into the 4th bar, we're back to D6. But here's what I want you to do. Just lift that pinky finger, or if you use the ring finger, lift it up, and leave your index finger completely barred from the 3rd string down on the 7th fret. So we're playing the same D6, but we don't have to go back into that fingering that we did before. We're already in place with the bar. So this measure is identical to 2. We're just using a different fingering. Okay, so let's give this measure a shot with the bar intact. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Nice. If we backtrack 3 into 4, so an easy change. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Cool. And if we backtrack again, let's try 1 through 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Nice. So now we're starting to get somewhere. So remember, the key with this tune is we just want to start really slow with that slow tempo, keeping that steady 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, keeping that nice steady rhythm, and then gradually try to boost the tempo a little bit, because when you get it starts to sound a little bit more like the song, right? When we start to increase that tempo. Now here's the thing, with this 4th measure, if you want, you can actually omit the last note, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So you can kind of end on beat 4 instead, and that'll buy you a little bit more time to grab the A chord that is our 5th measure, and it actually comprises our 6th and 7th measure. So what does that mean? Well, let's take a look. So let's make this chord first, and this chord is the same as the B minor chord, but it's a little bit different. So this is a shape that we all know and love and we play a million times. It looks like the staircase, right? Here's the thing. If we move this up to the 7th, 6th, and 5th fret, and we move it directly up a string, so 4, 3, 2, and the open 1st string, we get what we're looking for, which is an A major triad. So go ahead and make this chord shape, and we're going to do everything identical as we already know. So together, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2. Now I said that something is going to happen in measures 6 and 7 with this. Well, here's what happens. You're going to play what we just did for bar 5, identical for 6, and identical for 7. So you've got 3 times in a row for the A chord. So you learn it once, you got it all 3 times. So let's try that. Let's try 5, 6, and 7, just playing out of the A, and we'll keep it nice and slow and steady. So we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Nice. Now here's the thing, so backtracking from 4 into 5, so I said you can cut the last note in 4. So the last note, we were playing out of that bar, right? Right, so we can go 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and so we can just cut the last note in measure 4 just to buy us a little bit more time if you need to, if you need it. It depends on what tempo you're playing this song at, but that's a little tip and trick you can throw in there. So again, let's talk about just this last part about it. It's a little tricky of a transition, so let's break down going from D6 to A. So go ahead and make the D6 chord. Remember, it's all on 7 flat. So watch my index finger. It's going to lead as I move. So my index finger is going to come down to the fingertip on the 5th fret of string 2, and then the other 2 fingers follow for that staircase shape. So that's the easy way to do this transition, is to lead with the index and then plant the other 2 down. But look at the motion. So as I move down, the others come down into place. So everything's happening pretty close in unison. Okay? So maybe hit pause and just practice that. You can always put chord transitions into their own time frame. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So like half notes. That helps you build the muscle memory to get transitions nice and easily down. So let's go ahead and look at our 8th measure to kind of finish up this big chunk of the A melody that we're working on. So the 8th measure, if you look at the tab right there, it's kind of interesting because it goes to quarter note rhythm. So every hit will be a quarter note, so we're breaking away from that Travis picking. So for this one, it's going to sound like... Okay, so start with the A chord, and I want you to pluck all 4 strings. Then I want you to take your pinky, put it on 7 on string 2, and you're going to pluck 1 and 2 together. At this point, you're going to lift that pinky up, and you're going to do a down strum. So you see that little symbol? That means a down strum. And here's the other thing. If you look at the top notes, I put those in parentheses. So that's going to mean that they are optional. So when you come down with this down strum, you just want to target string 2 and 1. But if you hit more strings, it's a-okay. It doesn't matter. But the melody is the little bottom part, da, da, da. So we just want to highlight the melody notes, which is that unison of the E string, or the E note. That's a more correct way to call that. So let's try just those first 3 hits. So we have pluck, pinky down on 7 on string 2, and then I want you to lift the pinky up, do a down strum, and then with the thumb you can grab the 7th fret of the 3rd string with your pinky. So a little bit of gymnastics with the pinky happening. So first it went to 2nd, then it lifted up, and then it went to the 3rd string. Okay, so a little bit of a gymnast in this bar. But again, if we cover it, we have pluck, pinky down on 2nd, 7th fret, pluck, lift pinky up, strum down, target the bottom 2 strings, and then put the pinky down on the 3rd string, 7th fret, and pluck that 1 note. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's you and I try that together. Quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. And let's backtrack. Let's try 5 to 8. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. And if we backtrack, let's try 1 through 8, but let's start to increase the tempo a little bit so we get it sounding more so like the actual tune. So maybe we'll go about... That sounds pretty good. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and it's about that tempo, so let's give that a shot. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So that gives us a good gist of what our first part for the A melody sounds like. So let's go ahead and kick into our ninth measure. Now, here's what's really interesting. 9, 10, and 11 are actually identical to 1, 2, and 3, except for the very first hit of measure 9. The very first hit, and I'll put up the tab right there, very first hit of measure 9, we're just going to put a variation in, which is a down strum. So when you start that, you're just going to go strum 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2, and carry on identical. As you go into 10, same as the second bar, so D6 with the pinky added. So together, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2. Then back to D major 7. Together, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2. Okay, so those 3 bars are the same except for that very first hit. We're just going to add a strum to kind of change things up a little bit. Now let's take a look at measure number 12. So measure number 12, first thing we notice, we're back to quarter notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so for this one, we're going to make a different version of a D. So remember that bar we did for flat on 7, and we had the pinky finger, or if you use the ring finger, if you use the pinky, it was on 9. So this was our D major 7. But for this chord, what we want to do is we want to slide that pinky up a half step to the 10th fret. So you're still flat on 7, strings 1, 2, and 3, and the 4th string is open, but now we've got pinky on 10 on string 1. So that gives us D1 for this little chord graph. So for this one, I would pluck and then get rid of the pinky, add your ring finger to 9 on string 1, play a single note. Then you can see that same little symbol. So we're going to do a targeted down strum on the first and second strings, but you got to lift the ring finger up. And you're going to target 1 and 2. Okay? And again, it doesn't matter if you hit more strings, all good, but try to target the bottom because that's where your melody lies. So we have pluck 9 flat on 7 for a down strum. So together 9, 7, and then finally take that pinky, play 10 on string 2. Okay? Now here's the thing, try to keep your index finger barred the entire time so that those notes of the chord sustain beautifully for the entire measure. So let's give this one a shot. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So all quarters. So a little bit slower. So let's try that. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. If we backtrack, let's try 9 into 12. So here we go. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and... Awesome. All right, so let's move on to the next 4 measures. And we're going back to the A chord, just as we did in measure 5, 6, and 7. But here's what happens. If you look at measure 13, you can see that for the first hit, we're just going to strum on that chord. So exactly the same as we saw in measure 9 when we strummed the first hit of the D. Okay, so for measure 13, we're going to strum and then play the remainder of the Travis picking. As you go into 14, you're going to do the same Travis picking to a T. So together, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2. And again for 15, together, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2. Okay, so let's just try that. We're going to go 13, 14, and 15, but give me a strum on the first hit. So we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and strum. 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and... Nice. Now going into 16, it's a little tricky. Here's what it sounds like. So it's tricky because it's a finger frenzy that's happening. Okay, so start with the basic A. I want you to pluck 4 and 1 together. Then take your pinky, add it to 7 on string 2, and and play just that one note. Now keep that pinky planted. I want you to take the index finger, move it from 5 on string 2 to 4 on string 1. Now look at my left hand. I'm actually hugging the neck. That's going to make this a lot easier to play than doing that U-shaped gap that I talked about earlier. So we want to hug the neck for this part. It's just going to help us feel a little bit more comfortable in our left hand. But this is tricky because I've got sev, 6, sev, 4. So it's a bit of a stretch. Now here's the final kicker. Move that index finger up to 5 on that first string, so it goes up a half step. So you have some movement that's a little bit awkward with the left hand. We have together, sev on 2, 4 on 1, and then 5 on 1. Okay, so that's our little melody motion that's happening. But if we look at it in the context of how we want to play this bar, we have 4 and 1 together, single note, 7 on string 2, then move that index down to 4 on string 1, strum, so just give me a down strum, and then I want you to move that index up to 5 and give me a single note. So we have together, sev, strum, 5. All right, so maybe hit pause on this video and just practice that bar. This bar is probably the hardest one in this measure, or in this A melody, I should say. So if you've got it down, let's just give it a shot. Quarter note rhythm. So here we go. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, if we backtrack, let's try the last 4 bars together. So 13, 14, 15, 16. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and strum. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 2, 3, 4. Nice. And if we backtrack again, 9 to 16, and we'll try to boost it a little bit. So we have 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and ready, go now. Nice. And I think I played one of the hits in measure 12 different. I think I strummed on beat 1. And that brings up a really good point. Just because I'm telling you guys to pluck on one hit and strum on another doesn't mean you have to do it 100% to a T as I'm instructing. Take it and make it your own. And that also means not just how you're doing the attacks, if you want to pluck, you want to strum, and what fingers you're using for the Travis picking, but figure out what tempo you want. This song works really good at an upbeat tempo, but it also sounds pretty cool at a slow tempo. So take it, make it your own, and have a little bit of fun with it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just cycle through the entire A melody so we can get a gist of what we've covered and learned. And this is going to be bars 1 through 16. So here's what everything sounds like. And I'm going to play a little bit faster. So that gives us a good gist of what everything sounds like up to speed, and it's a really fun tune to play once you get it at that quicker tempo. So something to strive for is to boost the tempo and the speed that you're playing it at. So that's going to wrap up everything for this part 1 lesson, guys. And in the part 2 lesson, we're going to kick into the B melody, which has some really cool chord work. So there should be a lot of great dexterity challenges of the left hand and some cool melody walk downs that are happening as well. But I may be biased because I wrote this song and I think it's pretty cool. So I do want to give you guys a friendly reminder that if you want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, you can do so by clicking this link right here, and that link will also take you to the lesson page where you can watch the part 2 video. And also on that page is the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer. So you can literally hit play, you can watch that tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars, bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you in the part 2 one. Take care.